what are your expectations for this weekend? Can the Browns actually have an easy one here against the Bengals?
No. I mean, there's no easy games in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm on record as saying that, and I genuinely believe it. I might make an exception for the New Jersey teams, but other than that, maybe those two notable exceptions to the rule. This Bengals team's not. This is not as bad of a team as their record might indicate. This is a team that was up 21-0 on the Colts. Right, the Colts have a pretty good defense too. It's not as good as the Steelers, but it's above average. Right, it's pretty good. Up until the Browns game, they were number 2 in the league. Right, until the Browns put up 30-some points on them. So this is a Colts defense who's pretty good, and Joe Burrow looked very good against them. Joe Burrow is actually he leads the league in passes between 1 and 19 yards. So he struggles completing the longer passes. You saw a little bit of that in college, right? He was super precise, and they that LSU team just had yak monsters, and that was just an unstoppable offense with those types of talents. But he struggles a little bit on those deeper passes, but he makes up for that in the intermediate game. Between 10 and 20 yards is where he just carves people up, and he's been very good. Against the Browns, he did attempt 60 passes. He wasn't the most efficient quarterback. They got after him pretty good. That's the secret to any quarterback. The one thing I will say, the Colts struggled to do that, and is one of the reasons he looks so good. The Colts actually only pressure Burrow on 9 of his 42 attempts, a far cry from Baker Mayfield being pressured on 15 of his 30. So I am hopeful that the Browns can generate some pressure, right? I need to see a little more out of Larry Ogunjobi. I need to see a little more out of Olivier Vernon. I need to see a little more out of Adrian Claiborne there. It can't just be Miles save the day for us. It can't just be Sheldon Richardson make a couple plays here and there, right? It has to be a 4-man effort. But so long as they can pressure him, I think that they will cause him some trouble. And yeah, this is going to be a tough game. I believe that. I think the Browns always struggle to sweep anybody, right? This is their time to do it. But this is a far cry from some sort of a layup type of a game, right? This is in Cincinnati. There won't be as many fans there, sure, but I am concerned about this game based on what I saw before. The Bengals don't have the talent on defense that Pittsburgh has. I'd argue probably nobody does. But this is something that the Browns certainly cannot look past. They have not earned the right to look past anyone. So I am intrigued by this matchup. I hope the Browns get their running game going again and are able to take some shots. And I look for the defense to continue to play well. I'm not going to say great because they are. I don't know that they're capable of that. But if they can get some pressure, they can keep the Bengals off the scoreboard. And I think the Browns can come out with a win here and get to 5-2. And if you could have told me that before the start of the season, I would have been all about it. Looking back on it, those two losses are jarringly ugly to the two teams that you can't lose like that to. But I would, I'm still all about this team this year if they can get out of Cincinnati with a victory and get to 5-2.
So the Browns secondary has been a little bit better in recent games. I wouldn't say against the Steelers, but we've seen some flashes of great play in the secondary. Eric, what do you think? Does the secondary give Burrow a different look? Do they give him more competition? Or are we going to see Sendejo just running after some guy going to the end zone?
Well, fortunately, last week was, I think, the first game this year I didn't yell out, Sendejo!
I did. You didn't see that missed tackle in the backfield, man? I think it was brutal.
Yeah, but that was a bummer. But it's usually 40 yards down the field that he misses a tackle or a coverage. But I'm really intrigued to see what happens with the injury report this week. Ronnie Harrison and Carl Joseph, they both missed last week's contest. If they could both be back for this game, that really changes the dynamic for their back end of the secondary. The other thing is that Kevin Johnson was not available in week 2. Not that he's, a lockdown defender, but that's another able-bodied defender that can kind of help shut down or limit Joe Burrow. So, that might be asking a lot if all 3 are available, but I think that could really help our defense. That was really just, like I said, kind of pitch and catch, how Burrow was on his 60 attempts in week 2. Linebacker-wise, there wasn't a whole lot of defending by any of the 3. I know Goodson had, I think, 10 tackles last week's contest. Taki, he's been underwhelming for the season. Hopefully he'll turn it around. If not, we'll have Malcolm Smith, he's been inconsistent, but he has had some interceptions and had some big plays. Maybe he can come up with a nice pick this week. So, that's, Browns defense has improved since week 1. And like what Drew was saying last week against the Steelers, they were kind of just boat racing us on our offense not being good, and our defense was keeping us in the game. If we had no defense, it could have been 65-0 easily in that game. So they made it like a blowout and not an embarrassment, pathetic New Jersey Jets game. So it could have been a lot better, or could have been a lot worse. So a lot better for them. So, but I really think Baker can get back on track. I think, you saw what Phillip Rivers did, what we did to Phillip Rivers, and then what he did was put up 371, 3 touchdowns last week. Granted, Bengals, they spotted the Bengals 21 points, so he kind of had to be throwing a lot of the time, but I don't think he's really on that level as where he should be as he was 10, 15 years ago. But if he could do that, I would hope the Browns could somehow have a passing attack somewhat like that. The other thing is you hear of the frustration of Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins, a couple good veterans on their defense. I really hope that because the coaching staff's not sure which way to go, whether it's the young guys or the old guys, that's causing some internal strife. You see the losings happening. It would appear that they're going with the young guys because of the frustration by the veterans. And it also appears that they're not playing well on defense with these young guys. So I don't know if that means they're going to flip it over to some of the veterans or they're going to keep status quo, but whatever they decide, I hope the Browns take advantage of it and kind of look how they did in 2018 where Baker came out and threw 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think it was within the first 3 quarters, but Baker's really got to eliminate those mistakes. He's really got to get back to those quick strikes. And 5 of his 6 interceptions this year, kind of going back to what I said last question, is in between the hashes. So it's not that he can't throw passes in between the hashes, but he's got to be careful. He's got to be decisive, and he's got to not make mistakes.